Hey y'all, how's everybody doing tonight? It's been a Monday. Let's put it that way. I, I had to call for help, y'all. I mean, I got Shelby over here. I was like, dude, look, I'm stupid from my feet to from my head to my toes, and I need some help. And honestly, we're still trying to figure out a couple things, but hey, at least we gained a little ground here and there. So, Neil, how you doing tonight, bud? Sick bastard, George. Glad you guys could show up. Say hey. Hey, Tara, how you doing? So, how's everybody doing tonight?
Hope you ain't having the same Monday we are.
Right. Long story short, I blundered into what I thought was a shit hot deal on a benchtop milling machine the other day.
Yep.
Anyway,
In the chat.
long story short, I used this thing for about 2 hours and it started acting weird. Now, I honestly don't believe that the feller that I bought this thing from tried to get over on me or hide anything, because with the amount of accessories he gave me with this thing, I still made out like a bandit, even if it didn't have a motor on it. But I kind of need this thing to move forward on making some parts for Liberty Risk back here. And right now I'm not having a hell of a lot of luck. Brother Buck, how are you doing? Mamu. Hey, Greg, how are you? Mr. John Stanley, nice to see you again, sir.
The shit's of it is, we thought we had it.
Yeah. And so we poked around on this thing with a couple of voltmeters and some jumper wires and pulled parts off and ran it down wire by wire. And like Shelby said, we thought we had this thing on lockdown. Turns out that's not the case. So anybody out there in the crowd that is a lot smarter than I am, which honestly ain't going to take much whenever it comes to 110-volt control circuits, variable speed motor controllers, things like that, specifically a brushless motor controller on a benchtop milling machine, please give me a shout and throw me a bone here, because I would love to pick your brain.
Enlighten us.
Yeah, need help now. Badly, much bad. So yeah, that's what we've been fighting with for the bulk of today. That, and I'm still at odds with the insurance company on the house and stuff like that, trying to get people to come out here and give me some prices, because at this point my good nature and goodwill towards my insurance company is waning. Let's put it that way. I'm getting kind of frustrated, and I know I'm probably not the only person that's in the same position right now. I know that there's a lot of people that got impacted by these hurricanes, but this is getting a little ridiculous. Anyway, that's a me problem, not a y'all problem.
They're always dragging my feet.
What's a good solution for a leaking gas tank?
That better not be June. Yeah, I already fixed that for you, bud.
Well, the immediate solution, little Dutch boy, your finger, plug the hole. I know you're probably looking for something a little more permanent than that, though. So it's going to kind of depend on how rusty it is and where it's rusting at. Just out of curiosity, is this a Honda Shadow tank? Because it seems like I've been running into a lot of that shit here lately. Oh, Zan Biker, how you doing, man? Good to see you again.
Oh.
What?
June, because I don't know. He's got a rusty tank now. The last one I fixed for him was a plastic tank. Remember that Icarus tank I got sent to me? That was cheap.
Oh, okay, yeah. I remember when you sent that one to Shelby.
Still holding gas.
Well, that's good. That's kind of the end game.
Yeah.
That's the result you're looking for.
Apparently he's got a rusty one. Now, what's it off of, June?
Yeah, man. Hit me up. What's it from? Mr. Pilak, how are you, sir? Buck, either you called my boy and asked him what he was fixing for dinner, or your telepatheticness rivals mine. Because yeah, we did Taco Tuesday a day early. Like I said, Monday. It's all screwed up.
You might have been just as we were starting. I was finishing that one.
Oh yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah, maybe. Virago 550. Oh boy. Is it the main tank, the one that you see, or is it sub tank, the one that you sit on? Because that's going to make a whole big difference right there. And as far as well, yeah, I agree with you, Greg. Tacos are good any day, man. Today it was kind of a, what are we doing for dinner? Wife unit's on the way home. We have no clue. Screw it. Fall back.
Get it done.
El Ring, how are you doing, brother? And I kind of feel targeted with that whole Laurel and Hardy statement there, dude.
I was just kind of thinking the same thing. Like,
I know I know I'm chunky, and I know he can hide behind a 2x4, but come on, man, give me a break here. Hey, Julie, how you doing?
Hi, Julie. The fisheye lens doesn't help.
Yeah, really, it don't. But Zilla, how you doing, man? So anyway, back to my problem with my milling machine. I put a potentiometer in this thing. It's the little variable resistor that controls the motor speed on there, and that didn't do nothing for me. Now, please, somebody explain to me, please, because my tiny pea brain has not been able to get my head wrapped around it. How can you have a motor that runs solid and stable? Now, granted, it's at half speed, but that's what the control board on this thing defaults to. How can this thing run at half speed when the wire is unplugged? Now, granted, this wire loom has 10 wires in it, and it's approximately 18 inches long, give or take. And you've got it unplugged from the potentiometer, which is your speed control knob, and you've also got it unplugged from the control board itself. Nothing else comes in this wire. It's a standalone harness that doesn't piggyback into anything. If you have the potentiometer, the speed control part, unplugged, but you plug the other end of the harness into the board, it stutters and it shuts down, it stops, it starts, it goes stupid. And we thought we had it found when we found this one wire that actually, according to the wiring diagram, is not used. It doesn't go to anything. And we eliminated that one wire because, let's be honest here, folks, on the Chinese built machine tools like this, they're kind of built off of a cookie cutter blueprint, but each manufacturer puts their own little spin on them. So we thought, hey, we'll ditch the one wire, and because apparently we're picking up interference from it, or it's picking up, EMI from the motor or the motor controller or something like that. We checked it out on the bench and it ran great. Put the thing together and it's doing the same damn thing. And I'm about that far away from fixing it my way. And fixing it my way means gutting the sucker and rewiring it from ground zero.
He said, what voltage is it though?
Huh?
What voltage is it? It comes in 110. So.
Well, it comes in 110, but the thing is, all the control circuits on that one leg that we're dealing with, it's all allegedly 5 volt or less. So that's what's got me stumped.
Well, that's all the readings that we got earlier was 5 volts for like half of the wire.
Yeah, but according to everything that I've found on it so far, the maximum voltage that we should see anywhere is 5 volts because it's set up on a 5 volt reference. As far as what kind of volts it's coming into it, it's a 110. It's 110 single phase. It's a benchtop mini mill. It runs off house current. But I've checked my voltage out here in the garage, and I don't have any significant voltage swings or anything like that. Like if my washing machine kicks on, you may see a quick blip where it drops maybe a volt, if that. But nothing real big. I don't have anything going on out here weird that might be putting out interference, except for maybe possibly my LED lights. But I'm kind of having a hard time buying into that putting out enough electrical noise to where it would cause this thing to skits out like this.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, O-ring. It's drawing plenty enough amps to power. It's a brushless motor for one. You know, it's a 3-phase DC motor. So the motor controller, what it does is it varies the output on the 3 AC phases to spin up like that. As far as what I'm getting out of it, I haven't been able to get it to run consistently long enough to be able to measure that and see if there's any big float up or down, just because of the latency in my voltmeter. And it's aggravating.
We had 2 voltmeters hooked up at the same time.
Well, Greg, what it's doing is, if you've got everything hooked up, if you've got the potentiometer hooked up, all that, you'll turn it on and it's got a bit of a soft start on it, which all these things are programmed with, from what I understand. But it'll start up and it'll spin up and it'll make whatever RPM you set it to, or if you max it out, it'll reach max RPM. And then after a few seconds, it will just stir and it will stutter out and die, almost like you hit a kill switch per se. And then it will pick back up and it will putter out and die. And there's not any real consistency to it. It's very sporadic. Now, the bizarre part is, I did a spindle reverse mod that is a very common thing on these. There's an unused port on the circuit board that the potentiometer is mounted to. And what it does is it diverts a ground to one side or the other of the controller phase to tell you, or to tell the controller, which way the spindle's supposed to spin. Now, if I put this thing in reverse, it'll run at whatever speed I set it at all day long. If I put it in forward, normal clockwise rotation, that's when I have the stutter. If I unplug the potentiometer from the harness, it will run at approximately half speed, because it doesn't have any resistance reference from that potentiometer. It has the stutter. If I unplug the harness from the main board in the control box, it will again run at half speed, but it's rock solid and stable. It doesn't deviate from that. Stephen Turner, I agree with you. And honestly, I had not thought about that earlier. I need to do that, and I will do that. Like I said, this is kind of bizarre. I've been on the phone with the tech department from Little Machine Shop, and also from Microlux, which is the company that retails this thing. Honestly, Microlux wasn't much help at all. Little Machine Shop, kind of bounced some ideas off of them, but it seems to me like they're really anxious to sell me a control board, and I'm really not ready to cross that bridge just yet.
Yeah, throw parts at it. That's not how we do things.
No, not big with the shotgun method, guys. Y'all know me better than that.
Buffalo mule, all the pots coming.
Yeah. George, it's not a bad idea, and I will try that just to see where it gets me. Buck, that's a possibility as well. But the thing is, I've not had enough luck finding a legit circuit diagram for my particular unit to where I would feel comfortable with poking and prodding around on something like that to try to test an individual part of the board. Greg, it's used, but it was very well cared for. The gentleman that I bought this thing from was actually a retired tool and die maker that worked here in Tampa, and he retired from the company that he was employed by after 40 plus years with them. And seeing some of the projects that he had done around his house, and seeing the condition that this mill, his tooling that he included along with the purchase of this mill, plus his other equipment out in his garage, the man definitely took pride and took care of his stuff. It was definitely not abused.
Buck, it's kind of like, when a Harley circuit breaker kind of overheats and just kills the power to everything. It's a soft like that. Like it'll just out of nowhere, just peter out and then come right back, like a high temp kind of thing almost. We were thinking of that too. But it feels soft. It's not like a hard stop like a circuit breaker would do.
Yeah, it's almost like one phase of the drive motor gets depowered momentarily. O-ring, I was thinking that it might have possibly been like a cold solder joint on the board for the potentiometer. And before I replaced my original, I reflowed all the solder joints on that board, and it's not very complex. I mean, there's 16, 18 total points of contact there. And that didn't bear any fruit. And the replacement potentiometer that little machine shop sent me for $30 plus shipping, they assured me that it was the updated design, because their old design, which they picture on their website, which coincidentally matches what I have in this Microlux mill to a T, because the Microlux mills and the little machine shop mills are identical, save for the sticker that's on the side of them. They assured me that they were sending me the updated potentiometer. And when you lay these things side by side, they are identical. And on their website, they have a picture. They have a picture of the old style and the new style, and there's pretty significant differences there. So I want to pick up a phone tomorrow and call those guys and see what I can get resolved there. O-ring, I don't think there's a safety switch on this thing. I mean, obviously you've got your emergency stop button on the side of the main power switch itself. It's big red panic button that latches in the off position if you slap it. Switch completely out of the equation and jumpered around it with jump leads, and that had no effect on it at all. George, I like the way you're thinking there. One of the hall sensors in the motor unit itself. I found the test specs to test that, but they were pretty vague. And all I saw was, the hall effects should be putting out around 5 volts DC. And that's really not doing anything for me, because number one, I don't know exactly where on the board I need to be checking this thing. And number two, it happens so quickly that I really don't think it's something where I would pick up with on my meter that I have here, just because of latency in the meter. As far as the safety relay, about the only thing I would consider as a safety relay would be the chicken switch on the side of the control box. And it's a latching button on top of the power switch. The power switch itself is a magnetic switch. So I don't know. Mr. Turner, thermal cutoff. If there is one, I've not been able to positively identify it, and I haven't found enough information to point me in the right direction to find it.
It's so random. It has no consistency.
I know, that's the bizarre thing, because there's time, like earlier today, we thought we had it licked, and we put it together after we ran it at varying speeds and at full speed for well over a minute at each time, and we thought, cool, we're good to go. As soon as we screwed the cabinet back together, it pooped again. Bill Spec, welcome in, brother. If you trip, just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, pull up a chair, get comfy, man. That's what we're all here for. Weather, man, right now the weather feels good, dude. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, it's like 78 degrees. I mean, I'm comfy.
I'm sure you are.
I'm very comfy. I mean,
77.
I'm like commando comfy right now.
Tell that to my.
Well, sorry, Mom.
Wait a minute, I never watched it. Which one's Laurel? Which one's Hardy?
Well, wait a minute. Hardy's a skinny guy, ain't he?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I don't know. I didn't watch him that much whenever I was a kid, neither. Oh, Greg, you're up there that way. Yeah, you're in the why does the air hurt my face part of the country. Sorry about that, dude.
It hurts to breathe around here.
Buck, I wish it was something that simple, but unfortunately, none of the mounting hardware on this stuff, it's all pocketed. It all goes into channels that are molded, and none of it's exposed. There's nothing that can touch there. Well, Stephen Turner, the inside the motor. I've got 3 phase wires, which are power wires, and that's my high current supply. And then I've got 6 small gauge wires that come off of that, and that's, from what I understand, that's my 3 separate Hall effect sensors that reads the phase timing and the phase speed of the motor. And you've got 3 commons, and then you've got 3 individual sense wires. Zilla, you ain't lying right now, brother. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I was rejoicing to the heavens because I thought I got a smoking deal on this thing. And I've used this thing. I mean, I use this thing for making some parts for Barnacle Boy. I use this for doing the mill work on the upper triple clamp on Liberty Risk here, and didn't have any problem with it. And then just out of the blue, hey, Balrion, how you doing, man?
What if we bypass the potentiometer and just start running?
Well, actually, you can bypass the pod on it, and in theory, it should run wide open. And the thing is, I tried that with the old one, and it wouldn't do it. It still had the stutters. But when I tried that with the old one, that's when I started questioning the solder joints in it, because it was pulling enough heat across the 2 terminals to where it started liquefying solder on one of the solder points. Mr. Stanley, I hate to hear about your rain there, Bubba. We're kind of on the ass end of monsoon season here, thank God, because I got tired of having to rotate boots out on the boot dryer, which is a fancy word for propping a box fan up and kicking it on high. Yeah, Balrion, I'm trying to figure out an issue I'm having with the motor control circuit in my mill that I bought the other day. Flash, I'm not seeing any kind of hot spots or any signs like that, like something got warm or something cooked off. I'm about that far away from getting this thing and just hot wiring the thing to where I can use it. Yeah, Greg, it all works in reverse. Varying, variable speed. It's all rock solid and stable in reverse. It's just when it's going forward. Now, I did notice on this thing when I pulled the cap off the top of the motor unit where the wires come into it, it's got a little dust cap on there. I can see those Hall sensors that are there to monitor, the winding speed and the timing on it and all that. And that plate has slots in it. And I'm assuming that's to where you can rotate it to clock it for motor timing or sensor timing. But when it comes to, when it comes to electricity in general on stuff like this, yeah, no, I ain't got it, man. Zilla, if I had enough room in this damn garage where I could park a Bridgeport in here, I'd have done it a long time ago, brother. But 2 problems with that. Number 1, I ain't got the room. Number 2, I ain't got the room. And then there's a small matter of being able to feed it, too. We just got lucky with the General up at the ride factory that whenever I found it, it just happened to be an old M-head unit that ran off for 1 time.
That thing's a beast. It's loud, but it's a beast.
Oh man, you ain't kidding. It's loud. When you crank that sucker up, man, it's putting out some work because it is shrieking.
Huh, that might be a decent idea. June said that's the old guy who's got a schematic on it.
He gave me all the paperwork that he's got from it, and I actually downloaded the manual that Microlux thing. And it's not really a manual; it's more of a pamphlet. It's a whole 4 pages,
nice. And
1.5 of them deal with how not to electrocute yourself when you're plugging it in. Hey, Yankee, what's up, brother? Man, Pickle, if I could Bluetooth this bitch, I'd have done it in a heartbeat. Okay. I've thought about the whole thing about hooking it to a VFD. I've thought about that. I really have. And honestly, for what it would cost me to do a VFD as a piggyback on this thing, I would probably be time and money ahead just to, get a 750 watt sewing machine servo motor and set it up with that where the control box mounts on the wall, because the only time that I can see me needing, variable speed on the fly on the spindle on this thing would be like if I'm, trying to, hone out a hole to a specific size or something along those lines. And also, there are ways around that to where on the servo motors that all the guys are swapping into their mini mills and mini lathes, you can get a conventional Radio Shack-esque off the shelf potentiometer for $5 or so, wire that in, and boom, you're in like Flynn.
What is VFD? Because to me, it sounds like something you need antibiotics for.
I know it does sound like something that'd make you have a case of the itchy scratchies, doesn't it? Actually, no, it's for variable field drive, or excuse me, variable frequency drive. But yeah, I know what you were talking about, but there's a lot of people out there, wife unit included, she needed some input on that. And honestly, I know what it is, but I don't know jack shit about what to do with it. So this is something where I've got to educate myself. Hey, Motor Noggin, what's happening, man? What would Yoda say? Yoda would probably say, get up off of my ass and go get back to work. But he ain't here right now. Balrian, I agree with you about flipping the phases because I've had to do that before on my RC cars when I've got a brushless motor and those things, because forward was reverse and reverse was forward, blah, blah, blah. I haven't done that yet, but I have wondered about that, about how that would play into this because the circuit board that the potentiometer is mounted to, it has a open 3-port socket and it defaults to counterclockwise rotation from the way the board is wired. But one common modification on these brushless mills is if you put a single pole double throw switch in there and you wire it up, the center pin on it is a reference ground. And then, it toggles that ground signal from one to the other. And that's how it knows, oh, hey, I need to back up now. I've done that and it runs like a champ in reverse, variable speed and all. But I don't know if swapping around the phase wires on the motor to reverse direction of the motor would improve my situation considering that. Flash, I agree with you. And that's kind of the head scratcher on this.
I was wondering myself if they run so good in reverse.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, sorry about the microphone thing. I'm having to do this off a webcam right now, and I apologize. It's not the best. I'll freely admit that.
Why are you apologizing?
Huh? Basically because they tell me my mic sucks, and I agree with that. I'm not all fancy and shit.
Like we got a laptop.
Moto, you're not wrong there, man. Hey, Shepsy, how you doing, bud? I didn't see you sneak in here.
What's up, man?
George, I would agree with you. This machine isn't terribly old. It's 5-6 years. And from the looks of it, it was relatively low use. Either that or the guy kept it exceptionally clean, one of the two. But don't know. Big mystery.
Ain't that old.
No, it's really not. Oh man, first day back at work. That sucks. I'm sorry, bro. Tomorrow is our first day back. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway. Okay, Greg, what are you getting at there about it being a brushless motor? I'm a little confused. Get a boom mic for the wife unit to wave about. No, because I'll get impacted by that boom mic eventually. I'll say the wrong damn thing, and then that boom mic will become a blunt object. Oh, Shepsy, man, I hate you walk back into that, brother. You know, there's a simple solution for that. Click, drag, highlight, delete.
Wish I could do that with my phone.
Yeah, that's an ace back here, Bubba. That's Liberty Risk. We started putting the bars together on that. After we get done with the live stream here tonight, we're gonna start poking some holes in it and pulling some wires through it to where we can actually turn it back into a functioning motorcycle.
Well, you were pecking at it earlier.
I wasn't pecking at it. I was whooping the shit out of it. It's just that was the biggest hammer I had at the time.
That wasn't gonna make a stupid racket.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Moto, I wish I could agree with you, but I've gone over every single ground point on this thing and everything is tight. Everything's got good conductivity. I don't know. June, we did the whole pull, stretch, and wiggle thing on all this wire as well. I mean, we pulled the harness out of the loom that it runs from the control box to the main power box on the mill, because I was thinking maybe it was picking up EMI from the high voltage wires that run separately but right alongside it inside, you know, that plastic sheathing. I mean, I even depinned one end of this thing to where we could ohm it out, you know, wire by wire by wire, and, you know, doing the whole pull and wiggle, and we came up with nothing. Carson, there's plenty of big ass hammers laying around here, but I got to be able to use the parts once I get them installed.
That's funny, Mono Nugget.
I wish it was a key switch.
Right?
That'd be nice.
Mike says he rides a 2015 Honda VFR 800.
Awesome.
Your bike doesn't need wrenching yet. What your bike needs is maintaining. If you're fortunate enough to where you're not having to fix problems, that's good. Don't get me wrong. But you got to think about maintaining, because that's the biggest reason why I see bikes, is because people don't do that and they run them until they don't run anymore. And then they're like, it's broke, please fix. And that's what we do, is we fix. And then we try to educate. And I know a lot of times it sounds like I'm trying to talk people. It sounds like I'm trying to talk myself out of a job. And if I had to do 25% less of the stuff that I normally do on the day to day, that would be outstanding, because it would free up some time for me to do stuff that I really need to be doing. And it's not that hard to get yourself on a normal maintenance schedule to where you don't have problems that snowball into a big bill. It's really not.
One thing after the other, here's another.
Yep. Hey, Jordan, how you doing, brother? Jordan, none of this stuff is hot. Nothing's warm. It don't run long enough for that. Ran when parked last night. Well, it ran when we parked it up on the damn workbench. Now that's coming back to bite me in the ass now, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. You did mess with it before you got to really play with it.
Well, no, I mean, I had it working pretty hard for a few hours before I put the light and the shit on there. But like I said, I took all that crap off. Yeah, I put a halo light around the spindle on this thing, and also I ran 12 volts up to the control box to where I could have a tack on it and do the reverse switch on there. But every single piece that I put on this thing, I took it completely off, and that didn't do squat for me. Okay, 2019 Yamaha MT-07 that every once in a while will turn key, clocks come up and cycle as they're supposed to, flip the switch and it don't crank. Well, Captain Obvious question here, but have you checked your battery, like an actual load test, and also have you checked what condition your battery terminals are in? Because Harleys vibrate like crazy and they shake battery cables loose all the time, but that's not a Harley only problem. We see it pretty frequently on metric bikes as well. So definitely start there. As a secondary, this may be a little bit out in left field, but I have seen a couple of Yamahas in particular, because of the design starter solenoid that they use, the main fuse, that 30 amp that plugs into your starter solenoid, the contact where that goes in, it'll either corrode or it's real loose fit and it'll arc in there a little bit and it'll build up a little bit of carbon and you'll have a crappy contact. So definitely look at that stuff first.
See those plugs would melt.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like it's like when a gold wing melts a stator plug. I mean, how many of you guys have seen that? That's from crappy connection, and then they start arcing. They get hot, they melt the plastic, and then poof, they release the mystical blue smoke. And next thing you know, that component is transcended from this plane of reality to the next. And of course, since it's a gold wing, that means the motor's got to come out of it.
That was a brilliant one.
Yeah, that was absolutely brilliant. Not
Back when they used to have an alternator pulled to the side of the bike.
Yeah, now that was one thing that Honda knocked it out of the park on whenever they come out with the 1500 Gold Wing. They're like, you know what? Screw this. We're tired of paying warranty claims. We're bolting on a car alternator onto this bitch. Hey, Extreme, how you doing, man? Tom, I can understand that because you got a lot of Tupperware you got to pull off. I'm in the same boat with my Beamer, and you guys haven't seen my Beamer because it's sitting out in the backyard. It's out there, and I'm hoping that the process of rotting speeds up, because it would not break my heart if it just dissolved into the ground. I absolutely hate that bike with a passion. Yeah, and one thing, especially on the newer bikes where you've got more power draw, because EFI, fuel pump, high output lighting, doodads, sparkles, whatever. If you have a kind of a crap ass connection at the battery terminal, especially if you've got a battery that's got the lead terminal blocks instead of the steel thread in battery terminals, like on some of the gel cell and the lithium batteries, if it starts getting loose enough to where it's breaking connection and it starts arcing, it'll localize enough heat there and it can melt that lead terminal block off the battery. Usually you see it happen on the negative post, but it can happen on either one of them. But we see that on Harley stuff a lot.
Those little steel tabs, guys, overtorque the shit out of them. They don't realize they're bending that either.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you got a new Shirai in there, so yeah, that's good stuff, man. I mean, I'm a big proponent of Shirai batteries. They got their act together. So moving past that, check your connections where the battery cable goes to the starter solenoid, and also check that main fuse, like I was talking about. But also check your ground. Check where your grounds to the frame, and make sure that you got a good solid connection there, and that it's not loose and moving around. Zilla, that's exactly what I recommend to all of our customers that come into us at the Ride Factory that's got a bike of that vintage as well. There's a couple others it's, we're starting to see more and more of. I've been doing that too. And this, the way I explain it to people, hey, most of the time, if you're unplugging that, you're unplugging it for a reason, because you got to fix something that's failed, or you're having to remove the motor, one of the two. Either way you go, it's not something that you're unplugging every 5 minutes. Chop that sucker out of there, solder it together, shrink tube it up, get a good solid connection there. That way you're eliminating a problem before it has a chance to leave you stranded.
Must have missed that one. Stator connection?
Yeah, he was talking about how he did it on his 1200 wing. Yeah, that's a smart move, man. Yeah, Greg, that, people think that, well, if it's past the battery, I don't need to worry about it. And that's a lot of times that's not the case. Jay, if you're doing alternator conversion, man, hey, props to you, because a lot of people don't bother with that, and they just put the bike up on Craigslist for $500 and they try to offload it on somebody. So hey, man, good job sticking in there with it and keeping old iron alive, dude.
Somebody make a kit for that?
They used to. I'm not sure if anybody's currently producing one, but it's not terribly hard to fabricate up. Mr. Stanley, if you got to check out for the night, I understand. Have a good evening, sir. Sorry, y'all. I'm trying to read comments here, and I'm kind of like, ooh, because I've been staring at little bitty, wire runs and circuit diagrams half the day. My eyeballs are turning square at this point. I get it, John. Night, man. Go get you some sleep, brother. I'll catch you next trip. But I mean, what are you starting to see? Because you do a lot more of the Harley shit than I do at work. I mean, what are you starting to see that's kind of a common thing that 5 years ago would have been like I've never seen that before.
A lot of the bagger motor motors are starting to get soft, causing alignment issues and squirrely.
Yeah, I remember you. I remember that one. Well, no. Oh no, yeah, that one where we had to use a air hammer, like a jackhammer, to pound the friggin' swing arm pivot bolt out of it. That was a trip. But then there was that one track conversion that came in there. Whenever you rev the motor would jump up in the damn frame and smack the bottom of the gas tank. Yeah. That was odd, to say the least.
Been seeing a lot more stupid handlebar setups.
Yeah.
Modular and
yeah.
Not a fan of that.
Yeah. I mean, like some of that stuff looks like it was put together by Connex or Capsella.
Right.
And if you guys are old enough to know what I'm talking about there, yeah, congrats. We all made it to 40.
So Moto and June want to know, what about asking Shade Tree or Weems?
About the mill?
Well,
Probably.
Jen, if you're talking about, hitting Jared up about his mill is a little bit different version than mine. It's the same basic frame, but the power box and the motor is a totally different critter. And this is probably where my insatiable need for more power is probably damned me to, pay penance for that.
Welcome to karma.
Yeah, she's not wrong there. I was looking for one of these brushless motor models specifically because the little benchtop mills like what Jared has and what you used to be able to buy all the time from Harbor Freight, real stupid cheap and everything, they use a brushed DC motor and they're pretty loud. Also, they've got a 2-speed head in them. They've got high and low range gears, and they're made out of plastic, and they break all the time if you have something bind up. Not to mention, even if they're running normal, they scream like a banshee. They are not quiet. And the motors on those, they are a 250 or a 350 watt motor, depending on which vendor you buy it from. The mill that I've got, it's rated at 500 watts. Right now, it's got no watts, and that's my problem.
Yeah, that's pretty sad, O-Ring. They won't work on anything older than a Milwaukee 8 anymore already.
Yeah, the dealerships are getting that way. That's going to be pretty sad whenever the local Harley shops start telling people, no, we don't work on twin cams. They're too old. That's going to be an eye opener there.
That's going to date you.
Yeah, and the thing is that if you think about it,
98 dyno was too old to service.
yeah.
Wow.
Harley over in Brandon, they have sent people over to us to buy spark plugs for an Evo Big Twin because it's too old for them to stock spark plugs for.
Yeah, that's a local Harley shop.
Yeah, and that's happened on more than one occasion by far.
Because the kids coming out of school have no idea what a twin cam is anymore.
Yeah, true that. Shupsy, you talk about digging into the memory bank, dude. I remember getting the paper catalog and just sitting there and thumbing through it, man.
Right.
It's sad to say, but those days are long gone, brother. JC Whitney catalog. Hey, Johnny Seacrest, how you doing?
It was basically the Amazon of the aftermarket kind of motorcycle and car world back in the 80s.
Yeah, Jordan, they're not quiet. Now, granted, whenever I'm running the General up at the shop, if I've got that thing belted up to run at high speed, I got to wear ear pro if I'm going to be there for more than a couple of minutes because it's loud. But damn thing was built in 1947, and all the parts in that damn thing in the head are still from 1947. I've had it apart. It's still got the matched bearings that it got installed with whenever Bridgeport built the damn thing. I replaced the bearings in the upper half of it on the quill, but the angular contact bearings that actually support it, those are the OGs, man. And they ain't rough. It's just all the slot from where the quill and everything comes down from the pulley. I mean, it does good work. It just it's not very subtle about it.
It's going to get it done.
Yeah. What year is that? Sorry, we don't carry oil for that, dude. You ain't lying. I know this is probably a big jump here, but I will all but wager a significant amount of money on the fact that, and by significant amount, I'm talking a whole screaming $5. I'll buy you some chicken nuggies at McDonald's, okay? But probably here within the next 3 to 5 years, I bet you're going to see Harley start pushing people to a lighter weight motor oil, like a 10W40 or a 10W30, something like that. And at the root of it all, it's probably going to be because of their VVT system that they're starting to jump into, because those systems are hydraulically actuated for the most part. Now, I haven't looked that hard into, the Harley VVT setup, but for the most part, that's the way they run. They run off engine oil. And the heavier oils, that VVT just can't react consistently enough. So they got to use a lightweight oil. In automotive applications, there's certain cars out there that spec either a 5W30 or a 5W20 weight oil. And if you put something like a 1030 in them, it throws them into a fit because the VVT solenoids can't handle the extra viscosity of the oil, and it confuses the shit out of them. So if Harley has to fall in line with that, because at the end of the day, and I mean, granted, this is just my opinion here, but I think we can all agree that Harley is getting very nervous about how Big Brother's looking at them from the emission standpoint, because let's be real here, guys. That's the sole reason why you're starting to see VVT come into Harley. That was the sole reason why we started seeing the twin cooled heads on the touring models. It's something that they've got to do to maintain emissions compliance, and those requirements are only getting more stringent every year. Hey, Fergus, how you doing, bud?
Special guest appearance.
Special guest appearance by Fergus the Shop Cat. His real name is Ferguson.
Hi.
See, he agrees. Hey, buddy.
Don't worry, he'll get fed.
Yeah, we're gonna feed him. He's just being bitchy.
Nothing wrong with a little hangry.
Well, he is. He's not hangry. He's just expecting. He's entitled. He's like, he's a typical cat. He's like, don't you know who I am?
Worship me.
Joseph Davis, good evening, sir. How are you? Jordan, I don't know if 40 weight would be good per se, because Harley's trying to tighten up their tolerances and everything. And they're doing a better job of it, don't get me wrong. But it's just when you get down to the basics of how the motor is constructed and designed, it's just the physical properties of the motor. You're going to have a lot of thermal expansion in areas where it opens up tolerances. It's simple physics. I mean, if you've got steel and aluminum in the same environment, you've got two metals, and you know this as well as I do, Bubba, because you make your living burning metal together. You're going to have those metals expand and contract at different rates at the same temperature. And with the way Harley's crankcases are put together and the way the flywheels are held captive in the bottom case and all that, you're going to see it open up, and it's going to have more in play whenever it's hot and up to temp. Likewise, cylinders are still going to grow a little bit. Now, granted, they don't grow as much as back in the day when we had iron cylinders, like on a shovel or an iron head, because for one, you've got full containment from top to bottom. You're not bolting to a flange at the base of the cylinder and then bolting a head onto the top of the cylinder, with the middle of the cylinder being the sole area of support for all of that fixture. But they still grow.
Okay.
Carson, yeah, a lot of the new stuff does use the 0W30. Some of the European stuff uses it's a oddball weight. It's like it's weird. It's like
that 15.
it's like 0W17 weight or something. I think. Yeah, I think it's just Volkswagen and Audi that's specking out on some of their stuff, but it's ridiculously thin. I mean, even at room temp, this stuff's like pouring water out of a bottle. Your new 68 F100.
Yeah.
Bubba, those are the good trucks. Those are the ones that you can fix cigarette paper and some tinfoil if you're on the side of the road. That's all you need. Yeah, he's crying. Wife unit took pity on him. Went to go give him some food because he makes it out. He's playing the pity card right now because he makes it out to sound like he's just absolutely starving to death and he's horribly mistreated. Now, no, he gets fed on the regular, and I mean regular. Actually, he's got full reign of the shop here, and he can come and go as he pleases. Little backstory on Fergus here. Shelby actually found him when he was a kitten, and he was flea bit, skin and bones. He was just ate up. And at the time, Shelby wasn't able to take in another cat, because he's got Maverick and he had another cat at the time. Well, anyway, he brings him up to the shop, and I'm like, let me see the little guy. I was like, oh, he's cute. He's blue. I'll take him. So I brought him home. We got him cleaned up, and we got him fattened up, got him fed, and our daughter's cat that was on a long-term loan basically to us, because for some reason the Marine Corps won't let you stuff your house cat in your foot locker.
Happy Veterans Day, everyone.
Absolutely. Happy Veterans Day. Brother Buck, I know you're out there. All you guys that have served and towed the line before, thank you very much. I meant to say something about that earlier, and I'm sorry, y'all. I got sidetracked. I warned y'all with the short earlier today. I woke up with a head full of mush, okay? I've been like this all day. I'm all over the page. But anyway, we took him in, and my daughter's cat was straight up asshole to him from day one. So we had to keep them separated. Coincidentally, my daughter's cat was a straight up asshole to Brody the Wonder Mutt from day one. It's just Brody's too dumb to figure out that she didn't like him and she didn't want to play. So he kept trying. And she would beat the shit out of him literally every day. But after a couple of months, Fergus got comfy here with us, and he decided he didn't want to be an indoor cat anymore. So he just started hanging out here in the garage. And I tried to get him back in the house. He wasn't having it. So, okay, cool. If that don't work for him, it don't work for him. But he's still hanging out with us here, 3 years later? Yeah. Going on 4? Yeah. Yeah, he's well cared for, y'all.
He's fine. Just like my cat, Maverick wants to be an outdoor cat. Sure, go ahead, buddy.
Honda 420. Hey, man. Yeah, man, it was good talking to you the other night over on Chasing Ghosts live stream.
What's up, man?
Oh, Johnny, I wish it was something as simple as something being a little damp, but unfortunately, that's not it. Floating Earth when going forward.
That made my brain hurt.
Well, the default on the control board is to bias that ground on the leg to make this thing rotate clockwise. And Now leave it to me to get the lemon out of the bunch because that's the way it usually plays out. But this is a pretty common mod for all the guys that run this brushless mini mill. And if that was something that was creating a problem, I think somebody would have piped up about it. But this has been a very well established update on these things for several years now. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I just got it built on Monday.
We found something new.
Yeah. Measure the ground against a known garage ground when running forward. That's a good idea. I had not thought to do that. I will definitely take a stab at that before I take steps.
Parts can.
No, it's not going to be a parts cannon scenario, but by God, if I got to rebuild the damn thing to work, I'm going to build it back bigger and better. We're going to have a 2 horsepower motor hanging on this damn thing by the time we're done with it.
Okay, but Shelby has a point because a parts cannon would be fun.
Just don't put in the other end of it.
Well, this is the virtual parts cannon, okay?
Fun.
All she heard was fun.
Valerian, it is a Microlux. It's Microlux. If you go on our website, it's the only one they have. It's Microlux's high torque mini mill. It's got a 500 watt brushless motor. Forsaken, Bubba, you are right on time, okay? You ain't missed nothing that we couldn't recap here at any given time because it's basically been brain vomit on my behalf, okay? And y'all out there that are actually trying to learn something, I apologize for that, but it's been one of them days. What?
Prepping gas tank and thick comfort.
Today is the alternate universe where you are trying to learn something.
Hey, I've never denied that shit. I'm
Monday.
always learning.
It is Monday.
I'm always figuring out just my level of dumb on this little mud ball called Earth.
Right? Extreme Bag Gaming found that out today, I guess. Wrapping a gas tank in thick comforter and stuffing it in the dryer on cool air did not work out too well. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, that's
Don't work out for the tank on the dryer.
man. I've heard people doing that, and I have always thought to myself, man, what's that going to do to the tank after all that stuff crashes about inside there for a couple of hours?
Right.
I can't imagine. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like somebody. And the picture in my head is kind of like somebody inverting the dimples on a golf ball. That's what I can see becoming of that. Hey Dan, how you doing, brother? Yeah, my head's mostly well, no, I'm still dumber than a box of rubber dog shit right now, to be totally honest with you. Yeah, no, it ain't improved.
Is that the number that you dialed today was 1-800 Ask Shelby?
As a matter of fact, it was. I'm too lazy for dialing everything out. So, I just go into my phone and scroll down until I see Broham number 1.
Pretty much.
And it works.
It's like a bat signal.
I'm too damn dumb for my smartphone, but I managed to program that shit in, by God.
We're going to have to get you a bat signal then, Shelby.
Right.
Yeah. No. It's going to be a cat signal.
Right? Like the howling wolf on a mountain top in front of the full moon.
Yeah, right.
A wrench and a cat on my shoulder.
There you go. Yeah. Forsaken, I'm glad you got some seat time in, brother. We went to Orlando yesterday and back with Angel, our new hire at the Ride Factory. I exercised a little bit of how shall we say spousal begging. Yeah, we'll go with spousal begging. But anyway, the beloved wife unit and I were planning on going to the big assembly point for all the fans of the large cartoonish, rodent here in Central Florida. And because we go there fairly often because
Reasons.
Allegedly,
Reasons?
she might have reasons
Reasons?
for going there fairly often. Allegedly. But anyway, Angel came in clutch and he helped pull my ass out of the fire when I had my back against the wall from a time standpoint, getting Barnacle Boy wrapped up to where we could put him out there at the camp out like we told everybody we were going to do. I figured the least I could do was drag him along with us for a little bit of fun.
21,042 steps.
Told y'all, she's a nerd. She keeps track of that shit with her watch. But anyway, so we rode out to Orlando yesterday, rode back. Actually, we got lucky. Usually that drive on I-4, especially around that one spot in the middle of the state that's really, really popular. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Thunderdome.
Usually traffic in that area sucks. And it wasn't that bad. You know, we were creeping and crawling a little bit, you know, first 5 miles or so whenever we left out and started heading back. But other than that, it wasn't bad. Flash, I agree with you there, but I'm kind of past the knowledge, learning, and enlightenment stage, and I am pushing deeply into that instant gratification, I want it now stage, because I just want this damn thing to work.
Somebody wants to swing chips.
Hey, Greg, how you doing, Bubba? Yeah, forsaken, you keep that under your hat there, bub. Oh man. Oh, Austin traffic. Yeah, that's not fun. Hey,
Malfunction Junction Extreme.
yeah, I've been through Houston. I've been through Dallas.
Through
I
Austin.
think I've been through Austin, but have we been through Austin before?
We have, well,
Well, we were in a car.
yeah.
Yeah, we was in the car. We were going to Galveston with my parents. But yeah, I've been through Dallas and I've been through Houston on a bike. That was spooky. That's almost as bad. Well, I'd say it's probably neck and neck with Nashville. The problem with Nashville is the road's a hell of a lot narrower and you ain't got that many places to go.
You ever try to run through Boston? Not Austin, Boston. Yeah, good luck with that one.
Right? I don't know. Dude, driving through DC and driving through Jersey whenever we were taking Aaron back up to his base at one time, that was no fun.
I bet. Like, you know, New York is like built on a grid pattern, kind of like Tampa kind of has a little bit of a grid pattern going on to it. Good luck in Boston.
Greg, I agree with you. Yeah, instant gratification for the win. That's a convenient lie that we tell ourselves because unfortunately we're having to squeeze some brain cells together to figure this shit out, and it hurts at this point.
Backtracking sucks.
Yeah. Joseph Fraze, thoughts and experiences with TSM or TSSM being obsolete or you reporting?
Badlands module.
Yeah, Badlands does have a production module out now that eliminates the TSSM.
It's place basically.
Yeah, and it functions as just a regular turn signal module, but you know, it doesn't have the security feature to it, but it's a viable option. Now, if you need a TSSM, Ted's V-Twin still has a pretty good stock of them because I guess when Harley announced that they were going to phase all that stuff out, Taiwan Ted swooped in and pretty much bought every damn one they still had left laying around. So they've got them in stock.
Another place to check is Vintage Parts.
Yeah, there is that. Sorry, guys, I'm having catch up here.
Or salvage yards, if you're lucky.
Carson, I've done the file game for a long time, Bubba. And, well, let's just say, you know, I'm spoiled. All right. I will Dremel tool that shit before I go on some of this stuff that I got to build. I'll bust out the Dremel tool. I mean, my neighbors will cuss me like a dog if I fire off the die grinder, but I ain't above it. But I need it now and I need it to work. No, Bubba, I ain't rode in Denver. Honestly, I've never been to Colorado, period. I've been over Colorado, but I haven't been in Colorado. Yeah, Atlanta traffic ain't no joke neither.
No place is no fun anytime.
Joseph Phrase, yes, Badlands. You may have to look them up as
Noms.
NAMS, however you pronounce it. NAM Cycle, but the Badland name and their product line. So it's all retail through NAMS nowadays.
And AMZ.
Yeah, if you Google NAMS Motorcycle Products Home, it should take you right to their homepage, and then they've got a drop down that shows NAM stuff like connectors and terminals, and then they've got the Badland link, but it's all under the same roof nowadays. George, that would be out fucking standing. Really, it would. And I would appreciate that greatly. I am probably, well, I mean, where I'm at here in St. Pete, I'm probably about a half hour south of Largo, roughly. But, man, if you'd be willing to take a peek at this and tell me how damn dumb I am, hey, flame away, brother. But if you can make this thing work, I'll give you a big ass hug.
The corporate world calls that collaboration.
Well, corporate HR world calls that a violation. But, thank God we're not corporate.
We like to share information.
Yeah. Yeah, and dress code. What the hell is that? Oh, well. Yeah.
Gotta support my buddy. And this is actually one of the comfier shirts I think I've ever owned, man. I love it.
The material on those is awesome, man. She knocked it out of the park with those things.
Fantastic. Love it.
Joseph, you got an 06 Fat Boy with a bad TSSM. Yeah, definitely look at NAMS. That's going to probably be your saving grace. Now, like I said, V-Twin Enterprises, TED Cycle, they may have an OE TSSM, but I can't guarantee it. I'd have to look it up, and I can't do that right now. I don't have access for the website here from the house. I mean, you can go on the retail website, but if you don't have a book in front of you, trying to find parts using their drop-down menu
Sucks.
Dude, it's horrible. I mean, I'd rather climb that damn telephone pole out here in the back alley and try to, pirate Starlink off of it than deal with that. And y'all know me, I'm stupid when it comes to electric. So yeah, that ain't gonna work good. Yes, Jordan, I've been through Chicago. No, Jordan, I want to go back. I was there for one reason and one reason only, and that was to see Petty Officer Squid Boy graduate boot. That was it.
And there happened to be a festival in Chicago that weekend.
What was that? I don't
I
remember.
have no idea.
I don't know. There was something going on, but there was people every damn where. Homegrown son. Oh man, somebody had to open the can of worms about flood bikes. Flood bikes are a crapshoot, and I will tell you that right now, because like what you're talking about, some were underwater for hours, if not all day. There's no set precedent here. Well, you're taking a big damn risk with if you're looking at a prospective bike to buy that was in a flood. Be prepared for anything and everything. We've got several flood bikes at Ride Factory right now, and we've stuff ranging from just having to do a simple oil change and shoot a little bit of oil on the chain and foot pegs because they were squeaky, all the way up to we've got one that basically tried to electrocute itself to death because the salt water had enough conductivity that after it compromised the battery dumped all of its voltage as it was a ground bleed, and it tried to electroplate itself to death. The battery cable that goes from the battery to the breaker, this is a Softail, by the way. The battery cable that goes from the breaker from the battery to the circuit breaker, it's all green and furry everywhere you cut into it. When you pulled the circuit breaker off of that thing, it pretty much dissolved into just a pile of rust.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Terminals fell off of it.
I mean,
And the
it's
cylinders had rust in them.
yeah, the
Pistons were
cylinders got
frozen.
rust, the top end stuck, and it's a shame too because this is a very, very nice bike.
Or you could just have to do an oil change.
Yeah.
Crapshoot.
It legitimately is a crapshoot. I worked a little TTR 125 the other day that we didn't even have clean carburetor on this thing. Literally, I mean, I ordered him a new air filter because it was old and it had a tear starting to develop in it. Other than that, all we did, we changed oil in it, and we lubed the chain, and that was that. Thing popped off and ran. We didn't even have to change gas in this thing, and it was underwater basically about like what this Fat Boy was.
I'll go for the gas tank. No, don't go after that, Fergus.
Dude, if I ever make it up to Colorado, I'll definitely hit you up. Right now, I I've gotten as far with life planning right now as trying to figure out whether or not I want to wear black socks or white socks tomorrow. And I'm really not planning on that because black socks are more comfy anyway. Flip flops or work boots to be determined. We'll figure that out as we go.
Marvin Norton, yeah, you got to hook that thing up to a laptop. You're probably going to have to bring it to Harley. You got the BCM married to it.
Oh
it's
yeah,
easy to change, but it has to be programmed.
yeah. It's got to be VIN tied or VIN locked to the bike because it's got a handshake and talk friendly with the ECM.
Where's a good place websites for random parts for older Harleys? Most places only have new stuff, according to Forsaken One.
Well, Forsaken, kind of depends on what you're looking for, and if you're wanting like OE reproduction or something that will just physically bolt on and work. Ted's V Twin, they're the big dog in the aftermarket repop part industry, and then also another vendor that we deal with on the regular is Mid USA. They've got a lot of reproduction stuff. They've got a lot of vintage stuff. They got good pricing on their stuff too. Like Midwest Cycle Supply.
Yeah, Midwest.
Midwest Cycle. They've got Ultima Motors and they've got some reproduction parts, not a whole lot. Past that, Drag Specialties, the old book, Western Power Sports, with hard drive, they've got some old stuff. Like I said, it kind of depends on what you're looking for and what you need.
eBay.
Yeah. Yeah. Internet flea market, that's kind of like my measure of last resort, but hey, even I get desperate from time to time. Let's see here. Morning, Squid. I guess it's morning where you're at. It's not morning yet here, but I've seen plenty of damn mornings out here in the shop here lately for some odd reason.
Hard kit for a 78 CD 553.
Oh,
A lot of copies out there. What's worth it?
yeah. Well, David, I'll be honest with you.
Throw away the brass.
Is the bike stock or pretty close to stock? Do you still have an airbox in it? Do you still have, the factory style exhaust where it's, 4-in-2, or has it got an aftermarket pipe and pod filters, things like that? Like Shelby said, the carb kits off Amazon, basically I use those fairly often, but I go into it with the intent and the mindset that I'm going to do my absolute damnedest to salvage the original needle jet, main jet, and pilot jet from the original stuff. If it currently has, like factory key and carb parts in there, because they're a known quantity and I know what I'm working with. Now, obviously, if they're worn or they're damaged to the point to where, I can't reclaim them, then I'm going to replace them with a similar, key in, genuine key in, or a key in reproduction part, like from, say, EBC or Moose Racing, because, they have, EBC compatible jets. The jets and the needles in particular, and the no name off brand carb kits, those are what you really got to watch out for, and it'll get you tripped up, because a lot of that stuff's not stamped for size. A lot of them are just flat out sized wrong. So that's where you got to be careful. The floats, the float needles, the float valves, the O-rings, the idle mixture screw, bolo ring, and gasket. That's about all I use out of those. I got a big pile of jets and everything that I've taken out of those I've never touched because I can't trust them.
You know,
Looks
Mark,
like Buck brought in someone to discuss a lathe issue.
Hang on, I'm looking. Bear with me, y'all. I got to roll up in the comments here. I know I talk too damn much. All jacked up on Mountain Dew, man.
fine.
Yeah, Shepsy, I agree with you. Be prepared to strip it to the frame and rebuild everything because everything is questionable. We've seen a couple of flood bikes here recently where they had significant corrosion already growing on the frame. And we're looking at it from the outside. You know, no telling what it looks like on the inside if there's a penetration or a void where salt water can get up inside there, because I'm willing to bet Harley doesn't paint the inside of their frame.
Remember that one that was rotted out there, the weld?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I had a 97, 98 Road King in there a while back. We put a motor in. And when we got the motor out of this thing, the frame rail for a chunk about 3 inches long, you know, where it goes underneath the transmission over on the left side of the frame, it was about 80% Bluetooth. Pretty wild shit.
And we're dropping 100-inch also made it.
Yeah. Buck, I appreciate you going out there headhunting, man. Let's see here. Bolt-in tall sissy bar. What are you trying to find a sissy bar for? That fat bob that you were talking about, or to inform you very more nice and fixed correctly? Julie, if you got to take off, hon, I understand. I appreciate you coming around to say hey and hang out with us.
Buck said Farron, P-H-A-R-R-Y-N. Needs a quick rundown on the lathe. I think you're talking about the mill.
Gotcha. Farron, what I got here, it's a Microlux high torque benchtop mini mill. It's a 500 watt brushless motor. You know, it's the only brushless benchtop unit that Microlux sells. It's the same thing as the little machine shop 3990 brushless high torque mini mill. But it just doesn't want to. It doesn't want to maintain voltage. Let's put it that way. It will run up and then it acts like it stalls, like it has a bad connection or something going open or something where the Hall effect that relays speed from the motor back to the board to help it regulate speed. It's like it has a drop out there, but I haven't been able to find it.
But in reverse.
Yeah, but the bizarre part is if I flip it over to run in reverse, it will run rock solid and stable for however long you want to sit there and watch it spin around and around. Balgon, that is a good idea. That's an excellent idea. And honestly, that's a resource that I had not thought about tapping.
Hi, Gma.
Dima, hey, how you doing? Forsaken, with JP Cycle, you got to be kind of careful there because JP is kind of like the JC Whitney of motorcycle vendors. They have a lot of stuff that they've bought from other vendors that have closed it out or discontinued it, and they rebranded as their own. And a lot of it's kind of a big question mark.
Might be better off looking at the lowbrow.
Yeah.
It says it's got 2000 nitrate.
Yeah, lowbrow customs would be a good option for you because lowbrow actually orders a bunch of their stuff to their spec, and if you're wanting a taller sissy bar, that's their bread and butter right there. So yeah, give those guys a look. Thanks, man. I hadn't thought about that. Ooh, G-Ma, I hate to hear that you got injections in your neck, huh? My dad used to have that stuff in his back, and it was not pleasant for him. You good though? Oh, Angel, dude, I gotta say, if I had to pick just one as a do-it-all right now, I'd have to stick with my roadie, man, because you know, Bastard Glide does not fail me. I fail it occasionally by forgetting to feed it, and it responds by throwing a tantrum where it does not self-motivate. But that's about the only problem I have with that bike. Other than that, it just runs.
Right on, the only one running one I have is the Seiko.
Yeah. Carson, this is running with the stock electronics, and it's not using any kind of a phase converter per se. The controller, it's a brushless DC motor, and the controller ramps up the output voltage on the output side going to the motor. I've measured that, but the thing is, if it's glitching and it's causing itself to pause because it's seeing an open reference voltage from the Hall effects, I'm not able to see it on my multimeter just from latency in my meter. Is there anything at this point that I don't have experience working on that I would like to learn more about? Yeah, there's plenty of them. The Yamaha Gen 2 VMAX, the 1700, I'd love to get a hold of one of those things, but you don't hardly ever see them around here. Y'all know me. I love me some two-stroke stuff. If you know, V twin shredder, if you could do a Broham solid and you know, send me a if you could see fit to send me a RZV 500, that would be outstanding because I know you guys got them up there. We didn't because this damn EPA thing, but you know, anything two-stroke.
What's that Mako 700?
Oh yeah, yeah, that 700cc Mako, that's a leg breaker there. But oh my god, it'd be fun to ride once you got it running.
Like I really wanted to ride that Energica.
Yeah, that Energica was a trip, and I know you guys have told me the last week that you know I'm an idiot because I was pronouncing it wrong, and I'm sorry. Okay, my bad. Pete, how you doing, brother?
Farron said
Farron?
he sounds like a controller.
I just read that. Thank you, though. Farron, I agree with you to an extent. It's strange to me because, like I was saying earlier, I know you probably weren't here for that. If I unplug the potentiometer where your variable speed control is from the harness that runs over to the control box, it will still stutter and do all of its stupid stuff, but it only runs at half of its, you know, peak RPM. And the guys at Little Machine Shop told me that whenever that potentiometer is unplugged, then yes, they will run at half RPM. That's normal because of the design of the board. Now, keep in mind, I'm open circuit on the end of this harness that's approximately 18 inches long, and it's got 10 wire leads in it. 5 of them in total are completely irrelevant to motor control on this. These are outputs for options that my unit does not have, and or they are outputs for RPM sensor for a factory option tack that my unit didn't come with. So I'm only dealing with 5 out of those 10. Now, here's the bizarre part. If I still have that harness that is open on this end because I don't have the potentiometer plugged up, if I unplug that harness from the main board, it levels out and it will run at half speed all day long. And there is one wire that on my diagram that I have shows open that's not connected to anything. That's the one wire that we pulled out of that harness, and we thought that we had the issue resolved because the instant that you make a connection there, not even giving it enough pressure to flex anything on the board to influence a bad contact or a bad solder joint, the instant anything make contact with that, it skits out. We took that wire lead away. It ran outstanding until we put the box back together. So I'm kind of back to square zero there. Let me roll up here because you guys got awful chatty for a second there. Let's see here. O-ring, I agree with you. JP Cycle, that's kind of a revolving door for parts because what I have seen from them, it doesn't have real good longevity to it.
At all.
Dakota, I'm there with you. The old Indian, like pre-Polaris Indian, pre-Gilroy Indian, we're talking like real Indian, Burt Monroe era Indian. Beautiful machines. I love them to death. Indian nowadays ain't what Indian used to be. Let's just leave it at that. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. It just I feel that Polaris bought the name to exploit it. That's my personal feelings on it.
They could have done a better job than just rebrand the fucking Victory. That's all they really did.
Yeah.
Rebrand Victory and try to bank on the name.
Yeah. Mike Miller, I would agree with you, and I'm going to open it back up again and do the whole wiggle jiggle test again and see if I can nail this thing down.
Someone mentioned earlier an old analog reader.
Yeah, I was reading that right here, and if I had
You
one,
can find me one.
yeah, I need to go hit up some pawn shops and find me one because there's been a couple of instances where an old school analog beater would have made my life a hell of a lot easier compared to a digital.
Like sinking cars, man. Find me one of those old school Suzuki carb sinking tools with the freaking glass.
Yeah,
tubes
and
and
glass
steel
tubes and the
balls
ball
in it.
bearings in it. Yeah, those
are the
were
best
great.
things I've ever used in my entire life.
Dude,
can't find what to say.
Dude, you seen me? I still use an old Unison.
Right?
That thing comes straight from the Volkswagen shop.
Yeah, those steel balls, priceless. Cannot find those anywhere. Or one's broken. What's a good as that?
Yeah, the Mad Max does get a little voiceful whenever you're running open headers on them. Ventures do too. And it sounded real cool, but Dad was going to beat my ass if I didn't put the mufflers back on that thing. So yeah, they went back on there.
Speaking of VFRs from someone earlier, I had a friend of mine that had a 08 VFR 800. And we uncorked that bitch one day. And man, when that VTEC hit, the whole neighborhood definitely heard you coming. Nothing would sound like a V4 though.
Sorry guys, I'm having to roll back and catch up here. Yes.
I've got to go to bed.
Yeah, I know you got to go to bed. And I'm surprised and I'm grateful that you were still out here hanging out with us. Hey, everybody in the chat, I need you to do me a favor real quick, okay? Tell the wife unit that she is fired for tonight and run her ass off because she's got an early morning tomorrow, okay? And shoot, I know that she stays out here to try to supervise me and keep me from creating general havoc and mayhem and basically looking like an idiot. I'm very well capable of doing that by myself, mostly. But
there's an extra brain cell back here. I'll be all right.
He's my safety net. But no, seriously. She tries to hang out with you guys as much as she can. This is one of those sponsorability things where, we gotta do what we gotta do, y'all. But yeah, tell her to go to bed like now. Cheeseburger, what's up, dude? Just now seen you come in. Okay. Buck, whenever you get that list put together, give me a shout and give me a heads up, okay? David, want to turn the 78 failed bobber I picked up last week for almost nothing into an adventure bike I can take off road and still run on pavement. Well, no. I mean, you could, but the thing is, the Honda is going to be more reliable and it's going to be lighter.
Yeah.
It ain't going to have as much low end torque, I'll give you that. But that's what God made sprockets for. So, yeah, find you some longer shocks. And to be honest with you, a
Harley front end and extend the freaking time.
Well, you could, but a smart feller would, like he said, find a late model sporty 39 millimeter front end. You can extend the front end out on it. You can put spoke wheels on it where it's fairly lightweight. You can find that crap everywhere. Or start hitting up Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, something like that. Find you an old clapped out KX80, especially one of the newer ones that's got inverted front end, KX80, KX85, KX85 big wheel, KX100, something like that. There's enough meat on the bone there to where once you swap it out, onto the Honda frame, you might have to put stiffer springs in it, but it's not going to be a 21-inch tire. It'll be a 17 or a 19, depending on what year it came from. But the hubs are all the same. You can lace up whatever size wheel you want. But if you go full potato and put like a YZ250 front end on it that's got a foot of travel, it's really going to be too much for what you want to do, because you're not going to be able to get a long enough shock on the back of it, because the swing arm would be, like that going down to the rear wheel. And you would measure your chain slack in feet, not inches. But that'll give you something to think about there.
Right? Because enough shoes, springs, and rollerblade wheels to make that work, honestly.
Greg, 71 TL500. Do you maybe mean a T500? 2-cylinder, 2-stroke 500? Because if so, let's talk, brother. Because yeah, we can do something with that. Pretty damn easy.
That's beyond my time.
Road Glide Rider, what's happening, man? How you doing, brother? Let's see here. Perrin, on one side, I feel bad for making the statement I did, but on the other side, I feel like it's something that needs to be said, because I worked in an Indian dealership whenever I first moved down here to Florida. That's actually why I moved to Florida, was to fill that role in that dealership. And I had worked for Polaris at another dealership previously, strictly on Polaris off-road models, side-by-sides, things like that. And Polaris has always been a crude company, because, and the way I explain it to people, if you take a Polaris four-wheeler and skin all the plastic off of it and you set it next to a Honda or a Suzuki or whatever, that you've done the same thing to it, people will walk up to it and be like, well, that's a four-wheeler, and that's something that looks like got built in a high school auto shop class. They're just they're a crude built machine. And for various personal reasons, I don't agree with how they do their R&D, because basically they'll develop a bike to about the 75% level, and then they'll bring it to market, and they do a failure analysis on how many warranty claims they've had and how many times they've had the same claim to find a failure pattern. And they'll let that ride for a model year or two, and then it's like, oh, big revelation, we've updated and improved. Well, no, actually you didn't. You cheaped out on the R&D, and you spent too much on marketing, and you let your customer base figure out where you were coming up short from, and you finally got around to coming full circle and fixing where you fell short on things. That's not a good way to roll, man. I can't get on board with that.
It keeps happening repeatedly.
Yeah, they've been in that rut for a while. Squids on squid. I agree with you to an extent. A lot of people don't know this, but Dennis Kirk is actually the retail side of Le Mans Corp, Parts Unlimited, Drag Specialties. That's why you see a lot of their stuff in Dennis Kirk's catalog. And they have a few product lines that are unique to Dennis Kirk, that's under contract to Dennis Kirk. But at the end of the day, Dennis Kirk is the commercial side of Parts Unlimited. And, you can't mail order directly from Parts Unlimited or Drag Specialties. You can with Dennis Kirk. That's how they get around that.
It's a dealer site for non-dealers, kind of.
Ish, kind of.
It's access to everything, but most things.
It's kind of an unspoken loophole that the industry has had for a long time, and everybody just turns a blind eye to it.
It's still there for us. Amazingly enough.
Greg, if you got to check out, brother, do what you got to do. Tell your wife unit I said hi. I just sent mine to bed. Appreciate you coming around, Bubba. Hotel Juliet. I've had a few Magnas with straight drags come through the shops over the years, and they're not subtle. You ain't sneaking around on them.
We sneaking down tonight.
Oh, let's see here. Oh man, Cheeseburger putting down the hammer. He said that the wife unit was dismissed from the organization. If she reads that, that is your ass, son. I am not bailing you out of that one. You dug your own hole there.
I'll be over here for a minute.
Oh, let's see here. Sorry, guys, I got to catch up here. Cheeseburger, I think it's just you, man. I mean, I ain't had no problems on mine here, Bubba. Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe my internet here at the hacienda dropped out for a bit. George, I do not have planetary gears in this mill, or else I would consider that. That's part of the reason why I was looking for one of these mills specifically, is because they did not have high and low range gears, because I know that they're prone to breakage and I know they're noisy as hell, because my mini lathe that I've had for several years now, it uses, they actually use the same head casting and the same gear set in there for high and low range. So I'm very familiar with the breakage and the noise issue, and I was trying to get away from that. But anyway, one way or the other, we'll figure it out. We'll wiggle the right wire, and then it'll be a big mystery, and it'll work from now on, and we'll always be, kind of skizzed out by it, and we'll be wondering, is today going to be the day? But either that, or I'll just completely lose my shit and start bashing on it with a hammer and then rebuild it my way.
I like that option.
I'm kind of leaning towards that option at this point, to be totally honest with you, brother. But anyway, I got some mail yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And let me backtrack just a little bit here. You guys remember the pictures of the carburetors I did on the CBX 1000 that I've got up at the Ride Factory? You guys, it's over on the Patreon. You guys probably saw that. And I know a few of you guys saw the end of these things, but I do them, because that's what I do. But, sorry, James Smith, I've already looked. It doesn't exist in this one. There's no such thing as a slow blow fuse in a mini mill, and there's 2 fuses in this thing. And not only have I jumpered around them, I've owned them, I've done the wiggle test, and then I replaced them just for good measure. So I appreciate your input, brother, but we ticked that box, and as far as I can tell, we're solid. Now, getting back to this CBX that I've got up here. I was in a position the other day where I had to drop one of the float bowls off of the bottom of the carb rack with the carbs in situ on the bike. And it was one of the bastard carbs. It was one of the interior carbs, the cylinder number 3, smack dab in the middle. And at that point in time, I was trying like hell to avoid having to pull the carbs back out of the bike. I've since done that, and I've remedied the problem. But I have seen these, and I've seen Pit Posse advertising these things for a while. And I saw whatever you want to call it that popped up on Amazon a while back, and I've kind of kept tabs on it. And I found myself in a spot with this CBX. I thought, well, what the hell? I'll go ahead and pull the trigger on it. So I bought this new pilot screw adjusting tool, and it's straight from Buddy Bezos. But this is not your typical pilot screw tool. The ones that a lot of you guys are probably familiar with, or you've seen me use in videos before, they're very simple. They've got a flathead screwdriver end on them, and they're driven by a cable. They're fixed, and they're stupid simple. They work. They've worked for a long time. That's why I tend to stick with them. I've actually got two of those things that are factory Kawasaki tools, and I have rebuilt the both of them so many times when I've worn the cables out and the cables broke that I'm about to the point where I can't rebuild them anymore. And I've been dabbling with the Amazon knockoffs on them. And I came across this thing a while back, and when I first started seeing this thing pop up, I think I originally saw it with Motion Pro, and I know you guys are probably going to think about that sexy blue anodized aluminum screwdriver thingamajig that Motion Pro makes. It's got the two gears at a 90-degree angle. Those things are awful. I mean, they are absolutely terrible. Don't waste your money. Guy that I worked with at a previous shop, he bought one, and it was terrible. I mean, it felt like it was crushing rocks in between the gears, no matter what you did. But for a time, Motion Pro also offered this thing. And it's a glorified screwdriver, but it's got a few tricks up its sleeve. Let me get this thing out of the bubble wrap because, yeah, I'm woefully unprepared and I haven't done that. Okay, here's basically what you get. It's a long shaft, with a outer aluminum housing, and it's bearing mounted, so it spins free. I mean, it spins nice and free. How it works, focus. If you look real close, it's got an actual legitimate spiral cut bevel gear out here on the business end, and this portion of it is threaded. Now, I haven't greased this thing or anything, so it may be a little crunchy, but it comes with a head that's got a fixed flat blade screwdriver blade that's fixed in there. This one's not removable, but screws in, allegedly. It's a very fine thread, so I got to hold my mouth just right. There we go. But it screws in there. And you've got you can see that I'm holding the driver tip here stationary. You got very minimal backlash in there. And it's got a little bit of a crunchy spot to it because it could probably use a dab of grease in that head. But that thing turns nice and free. Now, where I ran into a problem is I needed something that was capable of doing or holding a Phillips screwdriver bit. And that's why I bought this kit in particular, because it comes with a second head that has a collet similar to what you would see on a Dremel tool, and you can put Phillips bits or flat blade or the Honda D bits, whatever you want to call them, that goes in here, and it threads in just for holding their bits that they include with this kit. And I'm assuming that these bits are proprietary. I haven't gotten them out of the package yet to look at them, so we'll figure that out. But for the price point this thing come into, I bought this thing off Amazon for $45. When I first spotted these things a few years back, they were well over $100 bill. Now, it's kind of interesting because these aren't a hex drive or anything like that. Let me hold it up here and see if you guys can make it out. But it's basically a round screwdriver shank that's got a pair of flats mashed into it. And that's what goes into this collet, and then the collet squeezes down on it and it grabs those flats to hold it stationary. But it's got a long flat blade for ones that are buried down deep. Then it's got kind of a long-ish, I'm going to call that a number 1 Phillips, because it really doesn't look right to be a number 2. And then it's got, a couple of smaller and shorter flat blade and Phillips bits with it. And then it's got the original here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the shortest flat blade bit that they give you with this kit, and I'm going to put it in this bit holder, and then hold it up next to the fixed head that they give you. There they are right there. And even with the shortest bit that they give you for a flat blade, you still got significantly better clearance with this one because it's fixed and it's held captive in here. This collet right here takes up a lot of real estate as far as how long it is overall. But Cheeseburger, you're exactly right. That's got the plastic broke off of a screwdriver handle. That was my first thought when I saw it. But the fact that these use an actual spiral cut drive gear in the head of them, that's encouraging that this thing isn't going to fall apart, in a couple of months. And also, uh, the gears in these tool heads that they give you with this kit, these things are mounted on ball bearing. I know it's going to be kind of hard to see there in the video, but they are an actual ball bearing. So just give them a drop of oil to, help with the slick them up factor every so often to keep them turning nice and smooth. And as long as you're not rough with it, or as long as you're not trying to use it as a breaker bar or something dumb like that, it looks like this thing's got the potential for holding in there for a good long while. So, Flash, these are not a JIS bit. I can tell the Phillips bits that this thing came with, they are not JIS. I can tell you that right now. And honestly, they really don't look like a true number 2 Phillips. They look kind of like a hodgepodge between number 1 and number 2 from the tip of them. But anyway, we're going to try it out, see what happens. If it works good, I'll let you know. If it's a turd, hey, I'll let you know. All in all, though, for $45 compared to what they used to be, and the price that these were originally brought to market at, when I know Pit Posse still has these on their website. Last time I looked, I think they were flirting with $100 bill. But hey, for $45, I'll take a chance on it. If it works, cool. If it don't, lesson learned, But at least I'll get something out of it. Oh yeah, also, they give you this little cool dude snap in place stabilizer handle for it, where you can steer it. You guys that live in states where they have a thing about scary black objects with a vertical foregrip, this may trip some PTSD. But like I said, we'll try it out, see what happens. If it's a piece of crap, I'll let you know it's a piece of crap. But if you guys are interested, I will. I'll put some pictures just so you know to where you can make your own decision, pass your own judgment. I'll put some pictures of it, and I'll put the link for the flea market where I bought it from over on the Patreon, and also I'll put it down here in the comment section on the live stream here. That way you guys can check it out and see if it's something you might want to roll the dice on. Draconis GS 450. Man, I'd have to look because honestly, I've not seen a GS 450 in my neck of the woods in a long time, dude. As far as carb boots goes, first off, you're probably going to find like a reproduction piece, like eBay, Amazon, something like that. Also, you might want to check with Niche Cycle. It's NICHE cycle.com. They got a lot of the old weird, Japanese stuff. Give those guys a look. Pete, don't know why it would be choppy right now, but James Smith, 6,000 is too tight for rod in play in an iron head. In play is in how? Are you talking side clearance, side to side? Or are you talking up and down actual in play on the rod pin itself? Because if you got 6 thou on the rod pin, that's bad. Yeah, you don't want 6 thou there. Flash, I don't know, man. I mean, I've looked at this thing for a couple of years, and I've always talked myself out of it because I thought, man, what I got, it's working for me. Well, right up until it wasn't working for me. So I thought, what the hell? I'll give it a try. By the way, Pete, it's not a felony. Not where I'm at. Hey, no problem, Zellock. You know, good luck to you, man. If you need any more help on that thing, or you need me to help you try to run some stuff down, dude, the best way to get a hold of me, hit me up over on Patreon, Bubba. I mean, I'm not trying to euchre any membership money out of you or anything like that. We got free membership options over there. Just jump over there, shoot me a message. You know, if I need to, you know, I'll do a little bit of digging and kick over a rock or two, see what I can come up with on my end. Okay. Sterling, how are you doing, sir? Good to see you, man. I feel bad, brother, because the last couple of live streams you've done, either I was at work or I was on the road or I was out here in the shop and I was listening to music and I didn't get a notification from you. I'm sorry, brother. I'm a horrible human. Yeah, basically. Well, not all Patreon, not all patrons Patreoni, however the pluralism of that is. Not all of the creators over on Patreon have free options. I do, because I do not believe in hiding knowledge behind a paywall. I think that is underhanded, and I do not agree with it. Knowledge is free. Knowledge, the only payment for knowledge is the investment that you put into it by taking the time to acquire that knowledge. And it's open and available to anyone, and that's the way that I run my Patreon page. Sterling Wheel, I appreciate you, brother. Sterling, actually, as far as a 4-carb sync for your Gold Wing, if you dig back into my playlists on my on my YouTube here on the temple videos, that's where I do all of my tool videos and whatnot. About a month ago, give or take, something like that, I put a video up about the carb gauges. No, I take that back. That was not on a tool video. Well, it was a 2-part deal. I did one on my tool videos, and also I showed how they hook up and how they performed on the revisit for hen's teeth, the ZL900 Eliminator. You can see them in action in that video as well. Now, they're a little touchy. I'm not going to lie to you. You've got to be very adamant about finding a sweet spot where the needle has enough movement to where you're not going to shut the gauge off and it bouncing around like mad to where you can't read it. But me and Shelby are working on a fix for that. We're trying to come up with a restrictor that we can put in line to kind of slow down the volume of vacuum coming into those gauges, because he bought a set of them too. And as far as how they function great. It's just the fine adjustment on them is a little bit finicky. '82 Honda V45, man. Those were a solid bike. I ain't gonna lie. The biggest downfall on them is people wouldn't service them and they wouldn't maintain them like they needed to. And more often than not, the valves would get tight, and occasionally you would see one, they would smear a rocker arm on a cam lobe from running piss poor oil or overheating them. The biggest problem that people have with those things is the valves would tighten up, and they would never adjust the valves in them until they got stupid tight. And then they'd have problems with them, you know, not wanting to start when they were cold, and they'd be real cold blooded. And they'd think, oh, it's carburetors, oh, it's ignition. And they'd throw a shitload of parts and work into it without addressing the root of the problem, which is tight valve clearances. Hey, Sterling, anytime you need help, brother, you know where to find me, man. I mean, if you can't get a hold of me here on Patreon, you know where I'm at. Just pick up the phone, dial up Rad Factory. You get me. Zellark, I appreciate you sharing that. I do. And that's a big reason why I started doing this, is because I see so many so-called experts on YouTube that throw an idea out there, or they just throw a bunch of shit out there without actually having the experience or having invested the time to research what they're trying to present enough to do it in either an effective or an accurate manner. And a lot of times it's both. And I just got fed up with seeing that stuff, man. And I was like, you know what? Somebody's got to do it. Might as well be me. Sterling, I'll be honest with you. I am not sold on that DigiSync thing. I know what you're talking about there. And I have asked those guys on their Facebook advertisements a couple of very pointed questions. And you want to know how many answers I've gotten back from them so far? Bupkis. Nothing. Nada. And to me, if they can't answer a pretty straightforward and simple question, I really don't want to roll the dice on spending money with them, because my thing is number one, how does this thing calibrate? Number two, how do you go about ensuring, because allegedly it's supposed to self-calibrate, how do you go about ensuring that it's doing that? And also, one thing that I didn't care for in all the videos that I've watched, the latency of it. By latency, I mean how slow the value changes. There's a lot of information there that you can catch on an old school analog gauge. Like if you see it twitch, drop down for just a second, and then come back up, that'd be indicative of a lousy valve seal, a lousy valve seat, or a valve that's potentially sticking in the guide for a brief instant. A lot of that stuff you're not going to see on that digital. That's why I don't recommend them. Cheeseburger, I used mercury sticks for a long time, and the analog gauges that I have now, that the ones that I use at the shop, man, I've had those things for every bit of 20 years, if not longer. And they're a copy of the gauges that K&L sells for like $350. Actually, I believe that they are actually the same gauge. They're just not branded as K&L, because K&L doesn't make those things. They buy them from somebody and have their logo put on there. But the analog gauges are hard to beat, dude. The mercuries work good. Don't get me wrong. It's just getting a hold of mercury to refill them. Man, it's getting tough. It's getting damn tough. And also, still, you've got a fixed restrictor there to where you're always going to have a little bit of movement and surge. And what I like about the analogs with that dampener they have in them, you can dial that down to where it has just the slightest bit of wiggle, but the gauge is still reading. So you're not cutting it off. Forsaken, I believe you are correct in that, because the STB that's the black option, if you will. Call it the black album. Okay, yeah. So if you're familiar with propane and propane accessories, then you know exactly where I'm coming from here. Upchuck, I appreciate the words, brother, and I appreciate you coming around to hang out with us, man. I get it. You got to go crash. I ain't too far from it myself, all right? We already ran a wife unit off. So anyway, man, I appreciate you stopping by to say hey, and, we'll catch you next trip, man. Sterling, I absolutely agree with you on that. And that's why I haven't bought those. And also, that kind of explains my thought process behind not buying a lot of the stuff that I've bought from alternate sources or inadvertently ended up making myself. South Osmodo, hey, welcome in from the land down under, my man. Appreciate you stopping in to hang out with us tonight. Cheeseburger, I think you got something going on inside your carb that a set of gauges just ain't going to fix there, Bubba. I think it's time to bite the bullet, break them down, pull them off, break them down, open them up. You're going to have to. Oh, Joseph Fraze brings up a good one. He's got a Honda Interceptor, and he thinks his cam chain tensioners are worn. I would not, I repeat, not tighten the springs on there, because the springs are not the source of the problem. The little lock, the stop lock that spring pushes the plunger out when that stop lock comes back in, there's constant motion there. And what happens is eventually it wears to the point to where it can't catch the teeth, and it'll skip over for a little bit. Now, the oil pressure brings it back out. The spring pressure brings it back out, because on your tensioners, they're driven by oil pressure with a spring assisting that oil pressure. But whenever they start rattling, like if, especially like if you're at high RPM and then you chop the throttle, you hear the cam change just kind of, rattle a little bit on decel. That's absolutely your cam chain tensioners, and the spring's not going to fix it. That's not the cause of the problem. It's the body of the tensioner itself is worn where that little rocker lock is. You need to invest in some tensioners before you have to end up investing in a motor, bub, because that's not something you want to play with. If that thing lets go all the way at the right time, that can put your cams out of time, and then next thing you know, you're crashing valves into the pistons. Bad news, man. Road Glide Rider, yes, absolutely. I have a lot of vintage equipment that does better than the new crap they got out on the market today, and I will hang on to that stuff as long as I can. My thoughts on the Triumph Thunderbird. Man, we don't see too many of those bikes in this neck of the woods. We don't. Now, when we were a Triumph dealer at the dealership I was working at when I first moved down here, I saw quite a few of them because, we sold them and we serviced them for break-in service, tires, things like that. But past that 1 to 2 year golden window, so to speak, from a new bike purchase, I just haven't seen them. I like the concept behind them, big everywhere, big everything. It's a big chunky bike, but and not to mention it's a stump puller of a motor. But I couldn't tell you long term on them because we just don't see them in our area. Oh, turbo and a 1500 gold wing. Ain't y'all cute? uh, when I was a young and wet behind the nuts fledgling mechanic, like high school era, the gentleman that opened the original Honda dealership in Fort Smith, Arkansas, his name was Leroy Winters. It was called Leroy Cycle Shack. Hell of a good dude, and he was slightly unhinged. Had a curious way about him. Let's put him that way. And anyway, they had a GL 1100 that they had stuck off in the corner of the dealership, and years and miles went by. Leroy sold the original Cycle Shack to another gentleman that renamed it as Honda World of Fort Smith, and they picked up the franchise. Leroy and his son Bart, they carried on with performing work there at the original location, and they renamed it, called it the Bike Barn. Well, anyway, sitting over in the corner of their display area, there was this mostly stock looking GL 1100 sitting over there for a long, long time, and it'd probably been a year or better before I ever noticed the supercharger that was peeking out from underneath the gas tank on this thing. It had a B&M 4:71 ratio, positive displacement, roots blower. You know how a lot of guys hang an alternator off the side of a Goldwing motor whenever the stator dies? Well, this wasn't an alternator. It was a supercharger. And they had that damn thing sitting right in the middle of it with a 2-barrel Holly parked on top of that. And it got about 12 miles a gallon. And it sounded like an old farm tractor when it was idling. But when you pulled the trigger on it, that damn thing would leave a black streak on the pavement as long as you had enough hair on your ass to stay in the throttle. Sterling, I'm trying, brother. It's one day at a time. But you know what? It's guys like you that make it easier for me to do what I do. And I damn sure appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much. I really, truly appreciate that. Joseph, I don't think you're taking a chance per se. What I would do, just as a preventative measure, is I would take pull the plugs apart, where the regulator plugs into the harness, check it for corrosion, tighten up the pins, to make sure they're making good contact. While you're at it, put a little bit of dielectric grease in there just to stave off any kind of corrosion, just as a precautionary measure, because probably about a solid third of the time, whenever I see voltage regulator failures on metric bikes, Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, whatever, that can be traced back to corrosion at those connectors. When the corrosion sets in, resistance goes up. When resistance is there, you have poor connectivity, so the regulator is going to be working the stator harder, but also because of that poor connection, it's going to generate heat. Eventually it gets to the point where it melts connector, it makes a it makes a ground, or it makes a ground path, and poof, it dies. So a little bit of preventive maintenance goes a long way. Well, guys, I tell you what, I've had a hell of a lot of fun tonight, and me and Shelby have got to go do our thing tomorrow, and it's starting to get a little bit on the late side. You left coasters, y'all were 3 hours behind us, so y'all were probably ready to sit down for dinner. I think we're going to wrap this thing up and pull the plug on it here, folks, because I've prattled on quite long enough at this point, and honestly, my head is no longer sore right here, so obviously I need to go back and start bashing it against the wall again, trying to figure out the problem with my mill. I got to get my ass in gear on that, because I need that thing to where I can make a couple of parts for Liberty Risk over here, to where I can finish out the headlight mount and also some of the turn signal stuff on the ass end of it. So yeah, I got to go back to doing the whole mechanic thing. Oh, let's see here. Sterling, don't worry about it, brother. Here the past couple of weeks, we've been a little erratic here in my part of the world, just because of life in general, and work and schedule and hurricane and all that crap. But it's all good, man. Just hit that subscribe button. That way you get a notification whenever we got a new video coming out. Now, just to give y'all a heads up, I know y'all were used to me doing Ramblin' Parked on Monday nights, okay? Try not to do that many live streams. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy the hell out of doing them, but it's not really the space or the place for me to put out the kind of educational content that I like to put out. I like to be able to put out stuff that you guys can go back to, refer to, hit the rewind button. It's like, oh, this is what I need to check here. I want to help you guys as much as I can. I want to help you guys save some money. I want to help you guys keep that old scooter alive, because that's ultimately what we're here for. Now, because of my work schedule and the wife unit's work schedule, we had to flip-flop days, and we're going to be doing Ramblin' Parked on Thursday nights for the foreseeable future. Now, I'm not saying that's an absolute permanent change, but that's what we're doing for the time being, okay? But if we go back to doing Ramblin' Parked on Monday nights, trust me, you guys will know about it, all right? Anyway, y'all, I love you. I had a good time tonight. Every single one of y'all, I appreciate y'all jumping in here to hang out with us. And, like I said, if you haven't been over on the Patreon, I'm sorry, shameless plug here for my Patreon. This is a free membership. You do not have to contribute anything to the Patreon. All of my tech articles, all of my how-tos, and all my dirty little secrets and everything, I put that out there for the whole world to see. I do not believe in hiding shit behind a paywall. I think that is underhanded. I think that is, I don't think that's totally on the up and up on the level. I can't get behind that concept. So, you guys, if you want to, head over to the Patreon, jump in on there. Like I said, you can join as a free member. Doesn't cost you one plug nickel, but we're putting together a hell of a knowledge base over there. And Patreon is not the ideal platform for that, because I have to make a post and people reply to that post. But whenever I do make posts, there are more than a few times when people contribute something and it gets the wheels turning, or it opens up the door to allow people to ask questions. That's when we come together as a community over there. That's when we come together as a brain trust, and we all put our heads together. If we need to find a solution to a problem, that's when we get it done, and that's when we find it. Okay, so check me out over there, because it's a good resource to have. Anyway, here we go, y'all. Last trip, I promise. I'm going to go grab me a cup of coffee. I got to fix my shit, and then I got to throw my clothes in the nuclear powered dryer over there. That way I got something to wear to work tomorrow, and I don't end up going to work naked. That's a terrible thought. Anyway, I love y'all. Good night. Have fun. Be safe. I look forward to seeing y'all Thursday night in the comments on the Ramblin' Park video. Okay. Till then, catch you on the flip side.